everyone. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm the chairperson of the Shelton Planning Commission. Today is Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, and the special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission being conducted entirely via Zoom is hereby called to order at 6:06 p.m. The protocol for today's meeting was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me that it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fair for those watching from a remote location. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
God, indivisible,
and
with
justice.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with a roll call. Please verbally indicate you're present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Parkins?
Present.
Commissioner Laskos?
Present.
Commissioner Motto?
Present.
Commissioner Ticky?
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger, alternate Commissioner Onofrio.
Present.
And is alternate Commissioner Usel with us yet? Okay, Mr. Rossetti, our P&Z Administrator.
Present.
Mr. Nappy, our Downtown Development Coordinator.
Oh, John just came on.
Okay. Here we go.
Present.
Okay. John, you're here with us? Commissioner Usel? Oh, you're on mute, Commissioner Usel. Very good.
Commissioner Usel is present.
Thank you so much. Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Present.
Mr. Rossetti, could you try letting Commissioner Laskos in again, please?
Yeah, he can't. He just dialed in, so there's no way for me to put him on the. He can just talk, but we
Okay.
will not see video.
All right. Ms. Renassos, our recording secretary.
Present.
Ms. Charbonneau, our stenographer.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. A couple of points before continuing with today's agenda. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host, while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting. The chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking, to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretaries are clear as to who is speaking. This evening, we have 3 public hearings, and I'd like to share the protocol for each public hearing, especially for those newcomers to our commission meetings that may not have participated in a public hearing before. Mr. Rossetti will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. The applicant and/or his associates will make their presentation. The commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. The applicant and/or associates can answer. The public will then be recognized to comment on the application. The applicant's attorney and/or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. If the public hearing remains open, the commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's and/or his associate's presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and/or his associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Staff will then schedule a discussion about the application at an upcoming commission meeting, during which time the commissioners will be asked by the chair on how it wants to proceed. I'd also like to share the guidelines for members of the public who choose to speak at the point in the public hearing when the chair calls for public comment. To identify yourself as a member of the public who wishes to speak, please do so by using Zoom's raise your hand function. After you are identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. Please present your comments and questions directly to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and or his associates. Comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments previously presented. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. The order tonight, I'm going to, Chairman's prerogative to take things out of order. And the reason I'm doing so is under public hearing B, application 2127, Dominic Thomas for CG Long Hill LLC at and near 394 and 402 Long Hill Avenue in Donovan Lane, petitioning for a zone change from R1 to R2 for 8 pieces of property totaling 19.31 acres, is being postponed until March 16th, 2022. So then we'll now go back to the first item under public hearing, application 2124, Dominic Thomas for Gold Coast LLC, 7 Ivy Brook Road, petitioning for a planned development district to include 63 dwellings with a mix of townhouses and apartments and on-site parking on a 3.07 acre parcel. Commissioner Amato, would you read the legal notice for this application, please?
I would, but I cannot open it on the email that you sent me. And I can't, I've tried 2 different devices here to see if I could get it anywhere, but I can't open it.
All right, well, I have it, so
Sorry.
that's okay. The Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held virtually on Wednesday, February 16th at 6 p.m. via Zoom to consider the following. Initiation of application 21-27, Dominic Thomas for CG Long Hill LLC at and near 394 and 402 Long Hill Avenue in Donovan Lane, including and around Assessor's Map 78, lots 6 to 14, petitioning for a zone change from R1 to R2 for 8 pieces of,
No, that's.
I'm sorry.
That's
you know
the
what?
wrong one.
That's the wrong one. The one in the legal notice had them in a different order. So I'm supposed to be doing application 21-24. So this is initiation of application 2124, Dominic Thomas for Gold Coast LLC at 7 Ivy Brook Road, Assessor's Map 65, Lot 12, petitioning for a planned development district to include 63 dwellings with a mix of townhouses and apartments and on-site parking on a 3.07 acre parcel. Said property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by 2 Ivy Brook Road, southerly by Mountain View Drive, easterly by Ivy Brook Road, westerly by 9 Mountain View Drive. All supporting material is on file in the Planning and Zoning Office and is available online through Shelton Planning and Zoning webpage. This meeting will be held via teleconference on the Zoom platform, and there will be no physical meeting. The meeting will be streaming live via YouTube Live for those who wish to view and listen to the meeting. Access to the stream will be posted on the city's main webpage at cityofshelton.org. Those wishing to comment during the public hearings will need to participate through Zoom, or written comments must be received by the Planning and Zoning Office 24 hours beforehand. The Zoom participation information is listed below, and that was dated the 1st of February, 2022. Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission, Virginia Harger Chair, Elaine Maddow Secretary, and this notice was the first one. It appeared in the Connecticut Post on February 9th, 2022. So application 2124 was accepted for review on November 9th, and it posted on the city's website is the PDD application, statement of uses and standards, site plans, and letters from the public. So is the applicant present?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Madam Chairman, Attorney Dominic Thomas representing Gold Coast LLC in this application, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut. I first want to point out, and just a little correction, this is an application for 63 condominium units. There's no proposal for apartments. It's under condominium ownership.
Okay.
The notices and sign postings were filed appropriately, they were sent out. They were actually sent out twice, once for the January meeting, which had some issues with the Connecticut Post notices, and sent out again and posted again. I'd like to, in the statement of uses and standards, if you've reviewed it, I'd like to just briefly review the issues with this site, which I mentioned in the statement of uses and standards. In the early 2000s, after this area off of Constitution Boulevard was developed, the owners came before the Planning and Zoning Commission and requested a lot line revision. That for some reason, that was to develop what is now 2 Ivy Brook in the medical office building there. At that time, property was added to 2 Ivy Brook, removed from 7 Ivy Brook, and certain easements were then placed on 7 Ivy Brook to the benefit of 2 Ivy Brook. And 2 Ivy Brook was shrunk down to 3 acres from the 5 acres that it was in the industrial subdivision. It is also, as was both pieces at that time, to say the least, topographically challenged. In other words, there's quite a bit of ledge, and the work on 2 Ivy Brook, which you see up on the screen where the building exists, the 50,000 square foot building at 2 Ivy Brook that was subdivided recently for the purpose of that property at 2 Ivy Brook has been leveled, and it stands at a grade below 7 Ivy Brook. It is between the changes in the LIP economy plus the size of the property being shrunk down to 3 acres, and plus, and this is very important for the commission to remember, and you could see it visually on your screen, in order to develop this piece of property for LIP, it has to be leveled, basically, because as you could see from the property next to it, in order to have an office building or a manufacturing building, the property needs to be leveled, and you have to have sufficient parking, outside parking. So because of that, and there was substantial limits on the viability of any LIP uses, and it was on the market for years. My client, who is a contract purchaser of the property, is proposing a residential use on the property. In the area of Constitution Boulevard, and now you have a broader view, there are residential uses. There is Four Winds, which is a PRD, I believe, planned residential development. There's River, I'm gonna be wrong, I think it's Riverview, Riverside, whatever, condominium, which are down on Waterview Road, and you had just approved apartments down closer to River Road, which is the next area that's going to be substantially developed in Shelton with respect to the interest. So our proposal again is for 63 condominium units, some townhouses, and a larger number of what are called flats, meaning in a multi-story building. In looking at the what's online, there have been numerous emails, basically all from the members of the public who live in Four Winds opposing the project. And among the complaints, their complaints are traffic and other development impacts. Pointing out, for example, that we don't have a traffic report. And I want to explain to you why, and I want to explain, I think it's very important for this commission to understand what it does when it zones a piece of property LIP. And this issue very, very recently, within the last 6 months, was decided by the appellate court in the case of 2772 BPR versus North Branford, which was a very controversial case involving a propane distribution facility. the use of a propane distribution facility was approved by the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission for site plan use, meaning it's a permitted use by site plan only. And there was a tremendous amount of opposition from the public in the area. It was happened to be in an industrial zone. And they challenged it, and they challenged the type of traffic, the size of the roads, and the type of trucks that would be traveling down. The case made its way to the appellate court. And when you are dealing in land use with presumptions, you have rebuttable presumptions and conclusive presumptions. Rebuttable ones, you can introduce evidence to rebut them. Conclusive presumptions are ones, hey, based on what you did, the presumption is concluded. So what they ruled is that in that case is that when a commission decides that something is a site plan use, it is a conclusive presumption for the zoning regulations that it includes traffic, municipal services, property values, and the general harmony of the district as categories into which the zoning commissions are not permitted to inquire once the commission has permitted a particular use as of right. So this is LIP. I took a look at your LIP zone, and for comparison purposes, especially for the public to understand it, you have three uses you have multitude of uses, many of which are special exception. But you have office, manufacturing, and research and development as site plan uses. So to give you an idea, when you were looking at the GIS, the medical office building and its parking would pretty much fit on the 3 acres. Maybe not 50,000 square feet, maybe 45 or 40,000 square feet, maybe not 175 parking spaces, maybe 150 or 160 parking spaces. That's presumed to be correct. And that density, that parking, and that traffic that is generated by an office building, a manufacturing facility with a trucking terminal as part of it, or an R&D building, is presumed by this commission. The infrastructure around it is presumed to be appropriate, meaning the traffic, the road ability to take everything. Not a question, not up for discussion. It is. So when we looked at it and made a decision of whether or not you want to do a traffic study, frankly, what we're proposing is way, way less than a 45 or 50,000 square foot office building with traffic in and out, or a 40 or 50,000 square foot industrial building. In addition to that, in order to develop it on this site, we would have to basically level the site. It has a lot of rock. Some of the people who wrote letters talked about the fact that they walked the site. And hearkening back to my olden times when I did criminal law, I should remind people not to confess to committing the crime of trespass when they write letters to the Planning and Zoning Commission. But anyway, regardless of that, they do it, and they noted that it is topographically challenged. And they need to keep in mind then, the neighbors do, that in order to develop it in accordance with its current zone, it would have to be substantially leveled. And when it's leveled, it would still be able to accommodate the easements that exist, because there is an easement across the rear portion of the property, the closest to Four Winds, that would create a possible extra entrance to 2 Ivy Brook. And that is one of the development issues with respect to this piece. So basically, I just think that laying that groundwork as to what you can do with this property, while many people might desire it stay in its natural state, the only way to do that is to create a situation where it remains undevelopable because it is unmarketable. And that is not correct planning and zoning. Our proposal, which is residential, you will see, is to build to the topography. Another point with respect to the residential uses that this commission should keep in mind and research, whether it's this project and others, is that if you've stayed up on the research, especially that's been even in the local newspapers, but also in the land use research, the demand for housing has been enormous and the supply is decreasing, which has driven up the price of both the types of housing that are in demand, which are smaller, much smaller single-family cluster townhouses and apartments. And they've driven up the rents and driven up the cost. And I challenge you or ask you to please do your research on that, because it's something that is becoming very, very focused in the issue of housing. As a result of that, it contributes substantially to the prices going up. Forgetting about the issue of what supply chain and cost of materials, this is just a supply and demand issue, and the demand is documented thoroughly. It is also residential. When you drive through this area, you do have industrial buildings that have for rent signs, plentiful. Residential benefits industrial and office buildings such as this, because current generations, especially those workers coming up, have a preference to live close to where they work. In fact, Four Winds shows how residential development in this area can work, and it worked in the issue of cluster single-family development in a PRD. In addition to that, our proposal creates a lot more green, much more green, than you would on this small lot in an LIP. Less blasting and creates an economically viable proposal. So with that, I would turn it over to Jim Swift, the project engineer. And Jim, are you able to screen share?
You're on mute, Mr.
You're
Swift.
on mute.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm prepared if you can screen share with me. I have a set of drawings to
Mr.
present.
Swift, just identify yourself for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Jim Swift, professional engineer, landscape architect. Yep. So there we go. So I think, can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Okay, it's on mine.
Jim, just try it again. I forgot to adjust the settings. Just try it one more time. Sorry about that.
Okay. Is that visible?
Give it 2 seconds.
By the way, any complaints you do have about the way Alex runs it on the Ansonia Planning and Zoning meeting the last Monday in January, in the middle of my presentation, I was Zoom bombed in the whole
I
presentation.
read about that in the paper.
Yes, it was very interesting.
There it goes.
There we go. Okay. So I'll zip by these first few. Dominic covered and Alex covered most of these. So you can see that the site is on the corner of Mountain View Road and Ivy Brook in this location. Four Winds located down in this area, and Rivendell over here, and a pretty big mix of PDDs and light industrial office building, things of that sort in the area. Here we go. Let's try it this way. So again, this is the area. You can see Ivy Brook Medical Center just adjacent to our site. And this is the area of that site that was cleared and is ready for parking near adjacent to our site. And as a point, Ivy Brook Medical Center has reserved an access easement through this location of our parcel.
Mhm.
The site plan is it's 3.07 acres in the light industrial park zone. We're proposing the planned development district for condominiums. We're doing that in a mix of condominium styles. We've got 55 flats in the main center building here, and then 8 townhouse units that move down the hill between that main building and Ivy Brook. So the taller building in the center of the site and the shorter buildings towards the road. For parking for this development, we have 30 parking spaces that are located underneath the flats in the basement, if you will, of that building. The townhouses all have 2-car garage parking. There are 74 surface parking spaces around the development for a total of 120. And then the townhouses were developed sufficiently set back from the main driveway to get another 16 apron parking spaces for a total of 136 parking spaces. And at this point, I would like to correct a typo in the drawing. If you were look in the parking count down here, you'd see that it says that it's 2.5 spaces per dwelling unit, and it's not. There's a typo. There's a 1 missing. It's 2.15 spaces per dwelling. So to come back to the site plan, we have some amenities. We have a pool building located up in this location. And of course, our access is off Mountain View Road. The entire site is laid out to meet the fire department's requirements. You can see that their standard truck is shown on the entryway and is capable of circulating throughout the site. The coverages are very modest. We have 19.7% building coverages, 51.4% of impervious. And we're proposing setbacks of 40 feet along the frontages along Mountain View and Ivy Brook, and 30-foot frontages on the side. This is the area where the easement exists that Ivy Brook Medical Center can put another driveway in along here to the back of their site. So we have set up to stay clear of that. Should they decide to take advantage of that possibility, we would need to relocate our main driveway, probably directly adjacent to the parking underneath the flats area. This is the topography that's been under discussion. We have a pretty good slope from left of the site to right of the site with pretty shallow ledge. You can see that as you drive up Ivy Brook Road. You can see the ledge in this location here, which is why we've chosen access off Mountain View Road. And as you go through the site, what happens is we have a grade of parking and driveway up in this location that's fairly close to grade, but cuts in a little bit and then does result in a rock cut to the left.
Mr. Swift, excuse me for a minute, but can you enlarge the site plan, please?
I think I can.
Thank you.
So there you go.
Thank you.
So we do have a bit of a rock cut in this area, probably 10, 15 feet. So it's fairly modest for as far as rock cuts go. And then we have a grade change through the flats building, building A. So the parking in the lower level is accessed in either end of the building, but on this side of the building, the grade extends all the way up to the first living floor. Pat Rose, our architect, will explain how that works as you come in the garage level down on this side of the building to get to elevators to get up to the upper floors. As you come to the townhouses, they are garage accessible for this driveway, but then they also have a drop through so that there are walkout basements on this side of the townhouses. And as you can see, there's no significant grading there. So doing that drop of grading through two different buildings works pretty well for the grades, minimizes the earthworks that we're going to need. We do have one retaining wall that we need right here in this location. We have a modest rock cut in this location. And in working with our neighbor, Ivy Brook Medical Center, we would hope to eliminate that rock cut altogether because we're pretty close to grade with our neighbor. But of course, we can't presume, so we have to show that that rock cut at this point.
Mr. Swenson,
We have,
can I ask you a question?
yes,
What's the grade in the area where the building A would be before and after?
yep. Let me zoom in just a little bit more so that you can see that the garage floor, the lowest floor that contains the parking elevation is 274.
Mhm.
And the 274 contour is this contour right here.
Mhm.
So it works very well. It's very close to grade. And this is what you want. You want the bottom floor to not be filling underneath it. We are filling a little bit underneath it here and we're cutting for the rest of it. And then we get up to about 282, which is 286 entering the building up here. So
So there's only a change of 8 feet before and after?
yes. Yes. So it worked out very well. The drainage for the site as it flows from the left side of the site to the right side of the site, all of the drainage for this parcel finds its way to the existing storm drainage in Ivy Brook Road right in this location here. We'll be dealing with it same as we do with all the sites. We have a storm drainage ordinance that we have to follow. We have the pre and post development flows that we cannot exceed the pre-development flows that we'll have to deal with. And that's going to work itself in right in here, which I've already explained. We've got a little bit of a fill here. We've got some fill in here. So our underground detention / retention is going to work very well right there. And it's going to discharge down to that basin. The sanitary sewer is in place, of course, on Ivy Brook Road. That will be tying into right here. And of course, all the other utilities for the record are available in Mountain View and Ivy Brook. Municipal water, electrical, and communications are all available in the site. For erosion control, it's all about protecting Ivy Brook Road. So, as we're working the site, doing the excavation, we'll have stockpiles in these two locations. A mitigation retention pond will be designed right in this area here. First thing that'll happen is we'll build this drainage pipe up, create the temporary sediment basin, and it'll all be controlled and discharged down into that location. So it's all about protecting Ivy Brook Road, that downstream section of the site. For landscaping, the highlight, I guess, that I would say of the landscaping is that we're going to save all of this existing hardwood tree system along Ivy Brook. There's no reason for us to get in there. We'll have to do the piping that's going to flow through there. We'll design it once we hopefully that the commission sees fit to approve the preliminary development plans. We'll go out there, we'll locate the trees, and we'll save as many trees as we can right in here. And that woodland extends all the way up into that location of the site. And then, of course, there's no reason for us to cut anything up in the area where the easement exists to Ivy Brook Medical Center. And then it's about buffering our site from Ivy Brook Medical Center, which we'll do in here. We'll develop a lot of nice landscaping around the pool. which sits in a nice location here. As it happens, the driveway goes down gradient as you come down around to get into the basement area. So there's a nice decorative retaining wall there and some trees and ornamental trees in that location. And that's subject to any questions. That's the site layout. And if there's no questions at this point, I'll turn it over to Pat Rose.
Jim, what is the height of the cut adjacent to the Dexon property?
The height of that cut is going to be, we are somewhere in the vicinity of 284. This is the 288, 86, and this is the 284 contour on Ivy Brook Medical. So this location, this elevation and this elevation are very, very similar. And you could see that they had a pretty steep rock cut right along the property line. They got a little carried away in this location onto our site. No big deal. So their rock cut on their side and our rock cut on our side are really going to serve no purpose. And we'll be approaching them when the time comes to just make this flat so that we can do a lot of evergreen planting and landscaping in there. As far as I think your main question was, we've got an elevation of about 295 here and about 284 here. So this rock cut is somewhere in the vicinity of 11 feet. Call it 14 feet to be safe, especially as it's going downhill in this direction. Of course, the existing grade is going down. So it's fairly modest as far as rock cuts go. I did not show it graded out because, which I could have done, I could have showed grades coming back up the hill. But in walking the site and looking at the earthwork profile in this location, I know that the ledge is probably only 2 or 3 feet deep. So I went ahead and showed the rock cut as opposed to a grade out.
Okay, any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Swift?
How tall is this building? How many floors in the main building?
Um,
Or is that the next
Pat-
presentation?
Yeah, Pat can answer that.
No, okay.
We'll get to that in line.
Yeah, all right.
Jim, if you could stop sharing your screen, and Alex, if I could share mine.
Yeah, let me see if I can figure out how to stop sharing mine.
It's the red button that says stop share.
Yeah, that I don't see.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Go ahead, Pat.
And Alex, I can go ahead and share mine.
I'll kick you off too if I don't like it.
All right. Okay. Did everybody see that?
Yes,
Very
I
good.
got it.
Very good. All right, my name is Patrick Rose from Rose Teasdale and Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue in Fairfield, Connecticut, the architect on the project. Just want to go through the plans and elevations quickly with you associated with the development. What you see before you is the lower level of the flats building, where this side here is a retaining wall about 12 feet high, so that on this side, which comes in from the parking lot next to the pool, you're at the residential level as you walk into the building. You'll see that on the next floor plan, but you're up a story. Then you come down around and enter into the garage on either side. So you have parking spaces along the garage, a couple stairways, a common space in the middle, which are up against the retaining wall. And then on this side, there are parking spaces along here and a walk. And you enter into a lobby space with elevator, mail, package receiving, and then go up to your residential floor above. You have accessible spaces on either side of that elevator, and then additional parking spaces and a water meter room. So that's how that works as you enter into the lobby, into the elevator, and upstairs. Next. So this becomes on the back side of the building, let's say, where the pool is, you enter in off of grade into this corridor that brings you to the residential floor. So on that first floor, you end up with 13 apartments. 5 of them are 1 bedrooms and 8 of them are 2 bedroom apartments. And then we've got our typical stair, and the elevator. Our typical floors 2 through 4, have 14 units in them. And 7 of them are 1 bedroom, 7 of them are 2 bedroom units. So off of this corridor, you have 7 units all together, and 14 units all together, equally split. Stair, exit, elevator again. The size of the units themselves have a range that the 2 bedroom units range from, most of them, or almost all of them, are 941 square feet. And then the 1 bedroom units range from 659 to 701 square feet, which is pretty much the size of units we've been doing in the area for the last couple of years. Just briefly, the townhouses, where there are 2 sets of 4 townhouses, which you have a 2-car garage on grade, an entryway and stairway up to a living space, dining space, kitchen, little powder room, then upstairs again to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. 2 baths here, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in each one of them. Actually, we actually have a lower level because of the change in grade. We've created a little rec room, at the, or man cave or whatever it wants to be, down at the lower level that is walkout to grade off Ivy Brook. So there's 2 sets of these of 4 units, so 8 altogether. Elevations of the flats building. This is at the lower side where the parking is. So the building is 4 stories of residential with parking below. Main entrance is here. Parking behind this screen wall. That's added from the drawings that you might see that are on the website, because it was requested by our tech session to make this a screen wall, so we're hiding cars behind that. The side elevation, right side elevation, this is the garage entrance and exit on the side as you come down from the upper portion down to the main entrance here. What we've done with the materials on the building is that we've used brick in the lower section. We've used a stucco band to break up the difference between the parking area and the upper residential floors, which we're using horizontal siding. We're also, and these come up as all horizontal siding up to gables at the roof. And then in between, we're using a vertical board and batten siding and shakes above that to break up the 3rd and 4th floors. What we've done on the roof is that this is a mansard roof. It's not a full height gable, it's a half height mansard roof. And behind that, we would be hiding all of our condensing units, 4 units behind that. So you wouldn't be seeing them, or they'd be blocked.
Mr. Rose, what's the
Yes.
length of the building, please? Is it something like 208? Did I read that right from another drawing?
Yeah, you probably did. Correct. 208 feet long by 65 foot wide. elevation on the opposite side where this is the parking below. And you're entering into the residential floor on this side. The pool is this in this location over here. And then you're dropping down to the entrance to the garage on either side. Similar material, similar layout of the building facade. The materials been used. And then again, the left side, your entrance off of the driveway into the garage. And then again, we've got the horizontal siding going up to the gables, and then the vertical board and batten and shakes above that to break up that third and fourth story. The elevations of the townhouses, two sets of them. They have a little grade break in one set that we're using brick and this entry portico in this location. Brick in this entry portico, garage doors, and then a band, and then the horizontal siding, and then shakes to break up these windows on the bedrooms on the second floor, and then shakes up in the gables of the roof facing the driveway, and also shakes on the side of the building and the ends. And the back side,
Mr. Rose, what's the dimensions again on the townhouse units for each 4-unit building?
Each building's 100 foot long. They're 25 foot wide units and 34 feet deep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On the rear side of the townhouses, as it goes steps down the hill, we're seeing a deck off the living space, the gable, another similar gable at the bedroom space, and then this is the lower rec room area, which walks out on grade to the rear.
What's the depth in the decks?
Oh, 10. I believe it's 10 feet.
Is there any special reason why those decks weren't continued to pass along underneath the area that looks like it's a kitchen window or something?
Yeah, we limited them to the area of the living room. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have the heights of the buildings? First with
Yes.
the main building?
Why I'm here.
Right, might as well do that one first.
So the overall height from the lowest grade up to the peak is 50 feet.
On the townhouse.
On the other side, where you're facing the driveway, it's going to be around 40 feet. Okay. Go back to the main building. The lowest side from the height is just short of 60 feet from the garage level up to the top of the mansard.
Just over 60.
It's 59, 7 7/8.
Okay, 59. So
Mr. Rose, would you have renderings of what this building might look like if you were on Ivy Brook? So kind of from a distance on the other side of the trees that we saw in the landscape plan?
I do not have a rendering, no, but I mean, based on the fact that you've got a significant amount of existing growth that's going to remain, you're going to have difficulty in seeing it to some degree. So,
But
How tall would you say the existing trees are that you all would keep?
They
that's a
vary.
question
I
for you,
mean,
Jim. I don't know.
yeah, they vary. I mean, it's a hardwood, sort of a mature hardwood forest, primarily oak and maple. they're gonna vary from, saplings that are just growing up to, 60 or 70 feet plus. Because some of them are quite old. So it's a mix.
But be that as it
some of
may,
them vary.
leaves do come down and for a portion of the year, you're going to be looking through them.
Because they're hardwoods, I'm not going to say that you can't see through them, but I think the point I would make is that you have to remember that Ivy Brook Road is well below the elevation of the site because you've got that rock cut all along Ivy Brook. And then across the street from Ivy Brook is Ivy Brook, between Ivy Brook Road and Constitution Boulevard. So if we can go back, Pat, go back a couple of more, maybe all the way to the cover sheet. Yeah, and see if you can blow up on that. You can see that between our site and Constitution Boulevard, that's heavily wooded, all in there. So,
Mr. Rossetti, can you bring up a GIS street view at some point, please?
I can stop sharing if you want, Alex.
That's fine.
Hold on. I have Google Earth. If you want to let me share, I have the Google Earth Street View.
Go ahead, Don.
Okay. Hold on, let me get full screen here. Hopefully I can do it correctly.
yeah, I mean, while you're doing that, it's not going to be correct to say that as you're driving up Constitution Boulevard, you're never going to be able to see this project. But I'd have to say, you're going to have to look awful hard. I mean, if you can imagine, I'm sure all the commissioners have been, driving this road quite a bit. If you can capture in your mind, how well do you see the Ivy Brook Medical Center? I've driven there a long time, and I have a hard time noticing the Ivy Brook Medical Center from Constitution Boulevard. I mean, I'm sure if I look for it, I could see it.
No, that's there. You can tell.
Yeah,
Can't see it.
well, that's what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to say that you're not going to be able to see it, but you're gonna have to look, and that's
Well,
one of the reasons we say this
Yeah, there's two things that I would like to point out. Number one, this is about the edge of the driveway into 2 Ivy Brook.
right.
This is looking at 7 Ivy Brook, and this is what is across the street. And there's the curve, there's the driveway. You can see the driveway. So you can see you have another band along Ivy Brook that protects it from Constitution Boulevard. But the other thing you have to keep in mind is we are not talking about doing this development on a piece of dedicated open space. We're doing it on LIP. So these trees, a good many of them, would not be there if this were developed as LIP.
Yeah, if we were doing LIP, we would
Everything.
certainly use that for parking. In
Yeah.
LIP, as Tony will tell you, you can use 50% of the front setback for parking, not for buildings. So
Yeah, but you can't say that for sure. I mean, you're doing conjecture at that point.
It depends
not
on what
really.
the
I don't
applicant.
think so, Mr. Kelly. I mean, if that's, that's the usable portion of the site.
I know that.
But
If
that's
this
no
were
guarantee.
LIP, if this were LIP, then the flats building would be basically where we would put a 3-story LIP building, or, whatever we were doing. And then we would park around it. And if you go back to the site plan and look at that, it's pretty obvious that the parking lot's gonna have to be down where the townhouses are. And I concur. I mean, I can't bet my life on it, but I bet 6 months pay.
Well, is the height of the medical building compared to what the height of this building will be?
I don't know, Dom, can we see that from, well, there we go.
There you go. There's the medical building.
Hmm.
I'll go down a little farther because you know, down to the parking. And you could see it there, up, way, so if you're there, this is all cleared, obviously.
That's fine.
This is in growth and growth. So this is the medical building. The medical building is a two-story medical building. Of
Probably
approximately,
about 30 feet. You know,
Yeah,
30 foot
25
height.
to 30 feet, right?
Yeah, correct.
yeah, it's 50,000 square feet.
Okay, 25 to 30 feet. Now, you're talking about a building that's basically twice as high as that. Am I correct?
Well, the important thing
higher.
is
I
what's
think
the
we're gonna be
rooftop
higher.
elevations?
Could you,
Huh?
What are the two rooftop elevations approximately?
Mr. Swift, are you going to answer Mr. Panico's question?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the elevation of that building is, and if you give me just a second,
Sure.
I'll go back to the original AutoCAD, and that'll help me out if I can. I don't want to leave the meeting. If we can go back to screen share with Pat, because Pat's got the existing conditions plan.
I can stop share.
60 feet from 74 is 134. So the top of our building is going to be about 134 feet. Yeah, and that's the one, Pat. Now, if you can pan up to towards Ivy Medical Brook. So they're about 280. And you think that building, Ivy Brook Medical Center, is about how high?
30 feet at the most.
30 feet. All right, so they're 80, they're going to be at 310.
We're at 274, right?
270. Yeah. 274. We're going to be about 20 feet taller than the top of our flats building. Should be about 20 feet higher than Ivy Brook Medical.
All right, Jim, I
Like a
think
story and a half.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is gonna be higher?
The proposed building.
Our flats building.
The flats
proposed-
building.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rose, you were the last one up. Do you have further information for us?
No, I had gone through. I just wondered if anybody had any questions. I didn't ask if anybody had any questions, and then people did.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Rose?
Just wanted to go over that parking again. The townhouses have 2 parking spaces each, not counting the garage space.
That's
Correct.
correct.
There's 2 spaces in front of the garage, and there's garage spaces. Yes.
Okay, so when you have the total number of spaces on the site, you're not counting those garage spaces as part of the parking?
Well, I break it
Yes.
down in the site data. It's 120 total without the apron spaces. And there's 16 apron spaces. So it's 120 if you don't count them. It's 136.
But you're not counting the space, the garage, the inside the garage as a space.
Oh, no, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we
You
are.
are.
They're in
So
this
there's-
total. They're in this
Yes.
total.
So of those, 2 spaces per unit, 4 of them are dedicated to those 8 units. They each have 4 spaces.
Yeah. And
Correct.
we're, we just try to be careful how we treat apron spaces. I mean.
But
we-
what
we
you're
leave
saying
the-
is that the
16 spaces don't count by zone.
main building
Right.
basically has 104 spaces, correct?
The main building has,
Correct.
That's correct.
Is that 30 and
That's correct.
74?
yes, that's
Yep.
correct, yes.
Okay, so, and then
120
the other is
120
dedicated to
eligible
the
spaces.
townhouses.
Correct.
All right,
So 104 spaces for 50 something units. How many units?
63, isn't it?
1.9.
No, 63
1.9
minus 8, so
58.
55.
58.
1.9 per unit.
All right, so to me, that's like
63 minus 8, there's 55 in the.
Right.
in the building with
In the building.
104 spaces,
Correct.
which is less than 2 spaces per unit.
Right.
Mhm.
Correct.
Slightly less, yeah.
I think that parking is marginal for the big building.
Could you repeat
Well-
that a little louder, Mr. Panico?
I think the parking is marginal for the big building.
I think that's a generous,
I-
I think that's a generous way of putting it, actually.
Well,
Mhm.
we have room to expand the parking. We haven't
Sure.
maxed out, if you will, the potential for parking.
Well, I don't think that would be desirable in terms of your presentation of how much setback space and natural vegetation that you can leave.
Well, but
I'm
I
just
beg to
I'm just
disagree.
giving you an impression that I have about this.
Yeah.
It looks tight, the units are small. The parking, I think, is inadequate. I don't think people can park on the street in
Absolutely not.
any meaningful way.
Does your parking count include parking for guests?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
can it? I mean, you're gonna have two,
Oh,
most people are gonna have 2 cars, and most people are gonna have 2 cars.
Mhm.
I
It's
don't think
not,
there's any guest parking, basically.
You don't have any guest parking specified on the plan, correct?
no,
because
no,
it's-
this is like most condominium proposals, it doesn't, I would just like to see these projects where the parking is an issue, these private projects, people buy it with the eyes wide open as to what they're buying into, including the parking. So I would really appreciate if someone could point out to me the projects where there's the problems. Because the
Yeah,
majority
I
of-
visit people often in condos, and it's hard to, as a
I
guest.
don't,
it's
I
hard
don't
to
think
park.
that's a fair statement,
Yeah,
because,
me either.
afterwards, that people start thinking, geez, I don't have enough places to park, so on and so forth. I mean, you really, some people don't go into with their eyes wide open.
Well,
Attorney Thomas, with all due respect, the commission does not have to justify the parking. It's the applicant that has to justify the parking.
Right, and 2 spaces per unit, which is approximately what this is.
Well, you don't have it.
is-
You don't have 2 places per unit. Approximately isn't 2 places.
We have, if you do the mathematics, it's 2 spaces per unit. We have 136 spaces, but even.
No,
with
you
the
don't.
100
You have 104, right?
But
Am I-
for
is that
each of
correct?
those, for each,
Oh, wait.
for the 8,
You
the
have-
8 townhouses, they are taking up, what, 32 of those spaces that you're talking
And they
about.
would be the ones more likely with multiple cars. The other ones, the 55 you have 55 units and you're 104. So if you're looking at it, you're 6 spaces short of 2 spaces per unit, and you have a pretty much equal distribution of 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. So I don't necessarily like you, it's not, I assume we can certainly look at, and I'm not one to advocate taking away green to add parking that often turns out to be not needed, but certainly we can do things on the site that could increase the parking. That put
You
more
could
access.
also reduce the number of units.
I was just
So,
gonna say that.
That's
Mhm.
a possibility, yes, we can certainly talk
Mhm.
about that.
take a
Uh,
floor off that building, maybe. I don't know. To me, it looks tight.
This Commissioner Ticky, I just had a comment. My main questions were on the elevations and I was just interested to see what it might look like from Ivy Brook, and we had that discussion. I agree with Commissioner Matto. and Kelly on the parking. And then the only other thing that is just a comment for us to be aware and really for the city, but as we take this up, Constitution Boulevard South is a very dark road. I mean, right now, these are office buildings during the day that people travel, but that has, virtually no streetlights, lampposts. And if we move in a direction of, these sorts of apartment buildings and more residences that are off of it, I think that the city should consider what that might need to look like in the future for folks that would be moving in to such a large development. So I just wanted to put that comment on the record for the city to consider as this goes forward.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any? Okay. For the applicant, whoever wants to answer, do we have any information from the city engineer?
We haven't been provided with anything.
Okay.
This has been filed for a long time. I don't know if I've received no reports.
Mr. Rossetti, do you expect anything to come in from?
There will be.
Okay, so none at this time. And how about from the WPCA? Mr. Rossetti?
No, we wouldn't normally go to the WPCA until we know how many units there are approved.
Right, okay, and that's a good clarification for the members of the public. How about from wetlands?
We would normally go to wetlands. Well, actually, we wouldn't go to wetlands. There's no wetlands on this site. So once you get this done, this is the initial concept plans. You then submit the site plan for the final site development plans to John for him to sign off. I'm sorry, the Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer, John Cook, for him to sign off that there is no regulated area. And to, based on the surveys, and Jim, you could correct me if I'm wrong, there's no regulated area in this area. In other words,
That's
no
correct.
upland review area.
That's
Okay,
correct.
and just clarify, is there any expectation of blasting?
Yes.
Yes.
As I said, we're looking at the site. You can see from the Ivy Brook Medical Center work that was done on that side, and as you drive up Ivy Brook Road, that we can expect some modest blasting. It's not huge depths. We expect it along that rock cut that Tony and Tony had questioned, probably 10 or 11 feet, 14 feet tall. So that's fairly modest as far as rock cuts go. And we expect there's probably a little bit in the upper corner of the flats building as well. But because we're stepping through the site with grade, it minimizes the amount of blasting that we're going to need as compared to, say, a light industrial type of a development.
Okay, recognizing that this is an initial concept, has there been any discussion for an amenity like an electric car charging station?
We can certainly bring that back to the developer. I don't know if Pat or Jim has had discussions with the client with respect to that. I'm sure there might be room on there to put them in. Pat?
Yeah, I mean,
Jim?
there's certainly no limitation on where they could go. I mean, that's, clearly a coming thing, and any developer that doesn't put in a substantial number is not going to be able to sell his condominium units without it.
Okay. All right.
Kenny,
Okay, Mr. Panico, did you have a question?
I was going to ask the commissioners about their interest in affordable housing, as has been the case with other residential developments.
Yes, that's a good point. And Mr. Rossetti, could you check? Seems that Commissioner Parkins is bumped out of the meeting or something.
Well, isn't these aren't apartments, these are condominiums, am I correct?
Well,
Yeah.
it's still a residential development.
Okay,
I mean, certainly, I would have that conversation. I can have that conversation. I do want to harken back to a conversation that commission members had concerning affordable housing in a discussion on another project that I was involved in after the public hearing closed. And I'm certainly prepared to have a conversation with my client concerning the comments about removing an entire floor and whether or not that's economically viable for him to do. But as was commented by some commission members in their discussion that I was listening to at another meeting, there has to be a balance, and I think it's appropriate for the commission to ask for potentially whether or not the applicant wants to do a voluntary affordable, but you also got to recognize the fact that when you are limiting something like this, which would be limiting the resale value of the properties, which then limits the initial sale value of the properties, you have to pay for it. So reducing density and asking for affordability sometimes work in opposite to each other. But certainly I'll have the conversations with my client along with the issue, which I think is probably becoming a necessity of charging stations.
Okay.
Commissioner
But I
Tick,
assume the public hearing, because there is going to be engineering reports and other reports, we need to keep the public hearing open so we would be able to address them. I'm sort of surprised they haven't been, this has been around for sort of a long time, but we will be prepared to address it when they are presented to us.
Okay. Commissioner Tiki?
thank you. Just a question on the trash disposal and containment for the apartment building particularly.
Yeah, could somebody point that out on the plans? And if you could enlarge the plan again, that would be helpful.
Pat, can you address that?
Yep, I can do that. Just give me 1 second. Jim, where is your dumpster pad? There's not.
No, I assumed that it was going to be a rollout from the common areas on the garage level.
It currently is not in the building.
Yeah, I don't think we reached the point of discussion as to whether it was going to be an interior chute system or whether it was going to be a
On grade.
on grade. Yeah.
All right, so the trash system has to be finalized.
Yep.
Okay. Could somebody tell me what's the size of the area where the pool is and the fire pit overall?
Oh, it's
60 by 80, 90.
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I would get. Yeah.
Okay. Give or take.
Chairwoman, Commissioner Parkins has a question.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Parkins.
So this is a new term that I'm hearing, flats. Is this a combination between a condo and a flat or an apartment? I've not heard that word used in a building such as this, if you will. I know you can say we have a flat in New York City or whatever. My concern is that these are very small and there's no balconies. So from a condo perspective, look for somebody looking to invest, while purely speculative, I would envision that because these are going to be lower priced, there's going to be a lot of investor purchases and it's going to turn into an apartment building because the units are going to be rented out. So I'm wondering if there's going to be any kind of, if approved, if there's going to be any kind of association rules where only so many units can be rented out at one given time.
Mhm.
Not aware. I would certainly bring that up with whether or not, obviously, the declarant would have to put that into the declaration, although declarations can be amended by the associations at a later time, but I will bring that up with the applicant.
Okay, that's a good point. Commissioner Parkins, do you have anything else?
No, that's really my concern. I really feel this is an apartment building being disguised as condos.
Mhm.
Commissioner Harder, I have a question.
Go right ahead.
The overall square foot of the footprint for the lofts, is it, or flats? Was it like 13,500 a floor,
Yes. I saw that.
roughly? If I did my math right.
Yep, 13,520, Charlie.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was, it's on sheet A-101.
I can't read, it's too small.
I know, but it talks
Even
about
with a magnifying glass, I can't read it.
with first floor, second floor, third floor, it says 13,747.
Yep, 747.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, any other further questions for the applicant and his associates?
Nope.
Any other comments right now, Attorney Thomas?
No, well, again, I've taken to account all the comments and I'll address them with the client and we'll get back to you.
Okay, well, we're gonna move into the public portion. And if there are any members of the public who wish to speak and you have not already done so, please use the raise the hand function to allow Mr. Rossetti to be able to identify you as a speaker when called upon. And while people are doing that, Mr. Rossetti, are there any new comments that were received from the public?
There were two kind of primary form letters that were submitted multiple times by different people. And so for the sake of time, I will read those letters aloud. And again, to resuscitate what the chairwoman has said, if you have additional comments after I've read these letters, please raise your hand or keep your hand raised and we will allow you to speak up at that time. If you do not have additional comments to say, please just note that your concerns have been read into the record and are part of the meeting. So without further ado.
So you have two specific form letters?
Yeah.
Okay.
That were submitted by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think there was over like about 3 dozen letters in
Yeah.
total.
So
on the
there
website.
were two primary ones. So
3 dozen.
And some of them were personalized.
correct. Most of them were pretty standard. So I will begin reading from the first one. One of the top concerns is 1, safety. The only road access in and out of the Ivy Brook development is on Mountain View. 3 businesses in the Four Winds Condo Association share the same road, and it is our only access in and out. There is only one means of access to the development for fire and ambulance, which creates an extremely hazardous situation for all residents in an emergency. We believe the added traffic and the limited egress in an emergency is a safety issue for the residents of the Four Winds Condo Association. As the Shelton Fire Department and other first responder organizations reviewed these plans. Number 2, traffic volume and management. The project will significantly increase vehicle traffic on both Mountain View and Ivy Brook, necessitating traffic lights at both the intersections of Mountain View and Ivy Brook and at Ivy Brook and Constitution Boulevard. Number 3, water pollution control. We are concerned that problems will result from stormwater runoff from the development. The new development is at a higher level than Mountain View, so stormwater runoff makes Mountain View slick and icy during winter weather events. We have serious reservations that sufficient measures will be taken to eliminate or prevent excess water from the proposed development from slowing onto the streets around the property. I think they meant from slewing or streaming onto the streets around the property. What impact will the project have on the existing sewer system? High density housing places create greater demands on a sewer system than for light industrial. Will there be enough sewer capacity when this development is built? The sewer department recently sent out correspondence expressing concerns over sewer blockage. This development will increase the potential for increased sewer blockage events. Item number 4, appearance. Are there adequate buffers around the building to make it attractive and have sidewalk appeal? Reviewing the plans, the development appears to have insufficient barriers to maintain the character for a residential neighborhood. Number 5, topographical engineering. Has adequate engineering been done to make sure the proposed design can be built on this topographically difficult plot? Will construction require blasting? If so, will the developers of the property assume any liability for cracked foundations in the surrounding areas? And then a side note, UBS blasted during their site preparations, resulting in several cracked foundations of Four Winds homes. Will the neighboring companies and residences be made aware of this blasting before final approval? Number 6, environment. Will an environmental impact study be conducted prior to approval of the proposed zone change and/or approval of construction of the proposed high-density housing project? And if so, why or why not? Number 7, water infrastructure. Is the existing water infrastructure adequate for the number of units and residences? Has an engineering study been done to assure adequate water pressure for existing structures in the neighborhood and the surrounding businesses in the Four Winds neighborhood? Number 8, parking. The plan shows 136 spots. The 8 townhouses each have 4 parking spaces, 2 in garages and 2 in front of each garage. The main building, 55 additional units, has a garage parking for 30 cars and outdoor parking for 74 cars. City rule requires 2.5 spaces per unit, 158 spaces. So the total number of 136 is not adequate, especially since 16 of those are on the aprons of the townhouse garages and not available to residents who don't live in those townhouses. Number 9, spot zoning. While Four Winds abuts residential neighborhoods, the 7 Ivy Brook proposed development of 63 residential units does not. In my view, this is spot zoning in a manner that diminishes the aesthetic character of Shelton's residential neighborhoods. In our view, we do not need any more hodgepodge zoning. Thank you for giving serious consideration to our concerns and objection. So again, I'll just kind of go through the bullet point. Number 1 was safety. Number 2 is traffic volume and management. Number 3, what is water pollution control? Number 4 was appearance. 5, engineering. 6, environmental. 7, water infrastructure. 8, parking, and 9, spot zoning. And then I will jump to
Alex, was that letter signed or was it just a generic
this.
form letter?
This was signed. There are many signatures for this same letter.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
There's separate letters posted on the website.
Dear Commissioners, we reside at Shelton Four Winds Condo Association. We write today regarding the proposed 7 Ivy Brook proposed development of 63 residential units on 3.07 acres. We have examined the plans and know the site well. We wish to object strongly to the application of these buildings in this location for the following reasons. The only road access in and out of the Ivy Brook development is on Mountain View. 3 businesses in the Four Wind Condos Association share the same road and is our only access in and out. There is only one means of access to and from the development for fire and ambulance, which creates an extremely hazardous situation for all residents in an emergency, as the fire department and other first responder organizations reviewed these plans. The project will significantly increase vehicle traffic and necessitate traffic lights at the intersections of Mountain View and Ivy Brook and at Ivy Brook and Constitution Boulevard. Again, they have concerns about stormwater runoff. The new development is at a higher level than Mountain View, so stormwater runoff makes Mountain View slick and icy during winter weather events. There are additional concerns repeated about the sewer system, buffering, adequate engineering, and topographical challenges, and adequate or inadequate water infrastructure and parking concerns. And that is again, that letter was sent in, I believe, 28 times from different personnel. So I will just take a moment to just comment briefly on just some of the technicalities from the city administrative side. As far as the concerns of the fire department and emergency services and water pollution control authority, all of these plans will be sent out to the corresponding agency. So for example, the fire department where the fire marshal will review the plans for fire safety and access. The Water Pollution Control Authority and the Sewer Department will review the plans once the commission takes action on these initial proposals and determine whether they comply, and if not, what changes have to be made. The commission may hear comments from those departments, but if the commission approved a project such as this, that still does not mean the applicant has the ability to proceed. They still have to go before those other departments and secure their approval. And as far as the spot zoning, parking, environment, engineering, appearance, and traffic, I will let the applicant address those concerns. But first, I will pick on some members of the public.
Mr. Rossetti, before you do that,
Yep.
I was sent a letter from Mr. Harbinson, the chair of the Shelton Conservation Commission, dated December 7th, 2021, referring to PDD application 21-24 at 7 Ivy Brook Road, 63 dwellings on 3.07 acres. I'm pretty sure this is forwarded to me from the commission office. And I'd like to read it into the record. And it says, "Dear Ms. Harger, from a conservation perspective, this development is not in the city's interest. There is no open space preservation, buffers, or sidewalks so that new residents can better access bus stops on Constitution Boulevard. There is a reason we have open space requirements in the subdivision regulations. When the PDD mechanism is used for residential development, such as this one, the Planning and Zoning Commission can and should require an open space set aside or a payment in lieu of open space." Okay, that's that letter from Mr. Harbinson. So do you have members of the public?
We do.
Okay, and just a reminder, anyone that is recognized to speak by Mr. Rossetti has the names. Please repeat your name and address, and if you're it would be very helpful to spell your last name for our secretaries.
Okay, Mr. Harbinson, you are up first.
Good evening, commissioners. Just Tom Harbinson, 15 Soundcrest Drive in Shelton. I am participating in this not in my role as a conservation commissioner, just as a regular citizen. Just a couple of thoughts as I listened to your meeting, and appreciate your commission doing this via Zoom so that citizens can participate in that. At the beginning, Attorney Thomas mentioned the Four Winds and Rivendell developments as being PRD. I think that was just a misspeak. They are both PDDs, which is what you are considering here. Commissioner Parkins referenced the word flat, that she had not heard that before. That's actually a British term for the word apartment. So although they may be condominiums, the concept that she expressed that they may turn into is a very high possibility, especially given the word flat that is already being utilized. I would say, in reference to Dominic Thomas's, Attorney Thomas's reply to Ruth Parkins, was that if you are trying to ensure that they don't turn into rentals, the best way to do that is through your approval process rather than relying upon a association agreement, which could subsequently change outside of your purview. Commissioner Ticky had asked for a street view. I think if Attorney Thomas is able to use his Google Earth to show a street view from 2012 April, at least I'm able to see it on Google Maps, that will show a rendering that does not have all of the vegetation fully leafed out and may be more indicative of the concerns that Commissioner Ticky has. And in that regard, the structures in this area are quite large. So this structure being quite large in and of itself, I'm wondering if the facades, whether it be the concrete spandrel areas on office buildings in the area, they have muted earth tones. So on this structure, if it be the board and batten, the shakes, or the horizontal siding, if they would have any color scheme that would be more in alignment with the industrial park, so it's not a vibrant blue or yellow that stands out in opposition to the commercial buildings in the area. And in terms of the lack of marketability as a light industrial park in the past, I'm just curious, from a city perspective, the tax generation that would come off of the development as proposed versus a potential light industrial park, which side of the scale weighs heavier in terms of the potential contribution to our grand list. Another item is within the development, while it is compact, I see no pedestrian movement. So if somebody were to go from the townhouses and want to utilize the pool, they would be walking in the vehicle lanes that are outlined in the plans. I'm wondering if any pedestrian facility, sidewalk kind of thing would be worth implementing or considering implementing within the site itself. And in regard to deliveries that may occur, as we know, Amazon services and other delivery trucks that come into the area, where those deliveries would occur, if there would be an assigned location within the center larger building for common area for packages to be delivered, or whether a delivery truck would be parking in the travel lanes. And then lastly, because given my conservation bent, my concern for the Ivy Brook watercourse, I'm curious as to the impervious surfaces that are created with the roofs and the streets, how the roof leaders that go into the gallows that's under the paved area and the storm drain that may be coming from the paved areas, how sand and grit separation is done, and how those areas are maintained. I bring that up because I have, over the past year, discovered several catch basins through our community that are filled with sand all the way to the top. And I've had great difficulty with the street department addressing those concerns of maintenance. With all of those things said, one last area is while the vegetated areas that would remain between Ivy Brook and this development are not outlined as dedicated open space, they certainly serve as an open space character to buffer it from the noise that may come from Constitution Boulevard or the lights that may eventually have to be added to Constitution Boulevard. But it does have a purpose of service to marketability for the development itself. And so in that regard, when construction occurs, if those areas would be delineated as a do not disturb area, so they are not moonscaped, that would be of benefit to everybody. And I think that covers everything that I personally had interest in. Again, not speaking for conservation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harbinson. Mr. Rossetti, is there another person?
I will call on Miss Frazier to speak up.
What was the name again?
Fraser. I don't want to mess up your first name. Ime?
M.A.
M.A.
Yes, M.A. Spelled A-I-M-E with an accented U on the E.
Okay, and what's your address, please?
23 Bunker Hill Circle.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Frazier.
I am speaking on behalf of the residents of Four Winds. I am the vice president of the association. And I just wanted to summarize. Mr. Rossetti did a great job reading some of our objection letters or opposition letters, but I just wanted to speak to a few points that were brought up in this meeting. First of all, the topographical difficulty of this bit of land has been mentioned more than once. And I hasten to add that it is higher than both Mountain View and Ivy Brook, and that this building will really tower over the everything in the area, also the medical center. It is taller than the medical center, and it is higher than the medical center. At that, as we looked at the plan, at that left end, there's a cliff of about 20 feet. And this building is higher than that. Referencing the blasting, we are very concerned about the blasting. And I have spoken with some residents of Rivendell, where there's that new warehouse going in across the street from them, or that new industrial building, manufacturing, I believe it is, I'm sorry. I was told by those residents that that blasting company, or that company, has documented the basements of all of the houses there to ensure that there will be no disputes over any kind of damage that might occur in the blasting. As mentioned in the letter, some of our homes suffered damage when the UBS building was built, and this blasting is deeply concerning to us. I had an opportunity to meet with some geologists who were on a field trip from Middletown, from Wesleyan, who said that 3 different glaciers ended basically right there, and that the rock that was exposed as the glaciers went through is unusual. It's very, very old. It's very, very dense. And our houses and all of the things on that hill are part of that rock. And apparently that has something to do with the potential for damage during blasting because of the nature of this rock. I'm about the parking. There is no way really that any street parking could happen here. And as relates to that, the way the building is situated and located, it's above the road. And there's no, as you mentioned, there's really no pedestrian, no accounting for pedestrians, no sidewalks, how to get down to Constitution, going for walks or whatever. So that's a concern of ours as well. The density of this place is a concern to us. He mentioned, Mr. Rossetti mentioned our concerns about water and sewer, our concerns about any potential icing on Mountain View, which for some odd reason doesn't seem to be very well taken care of by the town when it snows. And it can be quite treacherous. There's a very steep hill that you have to go right up and to get to our place, but also to get to that place. So we're concerned about the runoff there, and we're also concerned about how that stormwater is going to get going to run off to Ivy Brook, which is down a gorge, and it's an ecological gem. I mean, it's beautiful. There's all kinds of wildlife down there, and it's very sensitive. There's fish, there's deer, bobcats, muskrats, all kinds of things, and it's important that the conservation officers keep its effect on that very pristine area in mind. And finally, again, I just want to say the density of this place, the potentially 138 or more people with potentially 130 or more cars. I mean, there's 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. I'm sure in the 1-bedroom, there'll be couples with 2 cars. The parking is inadequate, and everything, so many people are being crammed into, maybe that's a harsh word, but are being put into only 3 acres. And this concerns us for the character of the neighborhood. I mean, this building is so different from everything else nearby that it doesn't fit in. And the idea of hodgepodge development really kind of fits here. It's just this thing that doesn't really match. And
Go ahead.
no, that's all. I just wanted to thank you for hearing us, and thank you for your work.
Okay. Ms. Frazier, the city of Shelton does have blasting requirements, pre-blast surveys and such. It's required by state law, and I'm sure any applicant in town that is cognizant of those requirements, and it is something that's supervised, I believe, by the fire marshal.
Okay.
Okay, so in any event, thank you for your remarks. Mr. Rossetti, who's next?
Is there anyone else who would like to comment at this time? Please raise your hand. If there's anyone else who's an attendee who would like to comment, please raise your hand. Okay.
Just want to note that, as Attorney Thomas mentioned, there are reports and such that still need to come in. And as we have done in the past, the public would be permitted to comment on that. So we're not, definitely we would be continuing the public hearing, and the public would have the opportunity to comment on any new material that comes in.
So
I would,
one last,
I'm sorry, Anita Flynn at 38 Bunker Hill Circle in Shelton, Four Winds.
Okay, Ms. Flynn, go right ahead.
I am in real estate, and in residential real estate. And hearing Ms. Parkins' comments in her reservations in regard to the eventual livability of these units. And I have to say, I agree. I have seen things progress in situations like this to a point where it becomes an rental apartment building. And I would strongly recommend, if they go forward with this proposed development, that there are limitations put on this building, because as our other spokesperson mentioned, I already don't feel as if it fits in with our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is freestanding little homes. It's very attractive, and does not, this building does not hit me in the same way at all. And, I just feel like it's going to be very important to limit the rental situations in a building like that, if we want to maintain any kind of, residential home type characteristics of this area. That's about all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Flynn. Mr. Rossetti, who's next?
is there anyone else that would like to speak up and have new comments? Please raise your hand. Don't. Okay, I see.
Okay, so there aren't any other members of the public?
Yep,
Um,
there's one more.
Oh, there is?
Yep,
Okay, that looks like the name on it is Lawrence Ganem.
yep.
Good evening. My name is Lawrence Ganem, 11 Cottage Court in Shelton, part of Four Winds. I heard all of the comments, and I'd like to just emphasize one more time about the parking. 1.9 spaces per unit is less than 2 spaces per unit. It's just not adequate. If they take that approach with the density on this property, we're going to have people parking on the street. And 600 or 650 square foot unit is not a condo that someone would generally live in. That is a rental unit. There are units like that all over the city of Bridgeport, which I'm very familiar with. And that is essentially what we're putting here. So if there's nothing else, the parking is a big concern, and the density of the units on that property is a big concern. And that's all I have to say beyond what was already said.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ganem.
Thank you.
Mr. Rossetti, is there anybody else?
If there's anyone else who would like to add new comments, please raise your hand.
Okay,
I see there's a new hand.
you do?
Mr. Ike, if you could pronounce your last name and spell it for the record, please.
Hetlinger. Okay, Mr. Hetlinger? You're on mute, so unmute yourself and you can speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, we can. And what's your
Okay.
address, sir?
My name is Igor Heitlinger. I live at 20 Bunker Hill Circle.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, so I just have one comment. I noticed during this presentation that they were talking about various other condo units in the area. The three that were mentioned are nothing like this new development. It's totally different, and it really doesn't match what the existing ones are, and I think it's inappropriate for the area. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hetlinger. Mr. Rossetti, who's next?
Anyone else who would like to speak up, please raise your hand. Going once. Anyone else going twice? I think that's it for tonight.
Okay, so Attorney Thomas, do you or any of the members of your team wish to respond to any of the comments made by members of the public?
Off mute. Very briefly, because the public hearing will be continued. I would begin with briefly addressing Mr. Tom Harbison's comments in the letter to you, which I think I was shown that letter, which was related to PDDs. What Mr. Harbison is suggesting is what is known as impact fees, which are not used in Connecticut. Open space requirements that are required in Connecticut are done in subdivisions. This is not even a residential zone. This is an LIP. As he correctly corrected me on, I thought that Four Winds was a PRD, planned residential development. It was a PD. It was a PDD, and Rivendell were PDDs. It shows that the effective use of a PDD up in the area. However, those are called impact fees. This is not a situation of that. You have to, when you're looking at the PDDs, and if you get into impact fees, and I'll leave you to do your research on this, that would mean they have to be applied across the board. And I think we'd want to have, maybe it's a procedure that you want to try to do and go down and tell all people going for PDDs, including the downtown ones, including those developments in the middle of downtown, that there's going to be an impact fee assessment for that purpose. I do think that there's a lot of good things that come when people make adequate use of the PDD. And switching to what his comment is, there seems to be a desire not to confront the reality that this is an LIP zone, and that in fact, under the zoning that exists, the blasting would be substantial. And I've pointed this out, and these are responses to the comments. The environmental impact would be a heck of a lot more, because you have no control, none, to do what Mr. Harbison pointed out, which is to ask that the area along Ivy Brook be a no clear area. I don't think we need to go in and have Mr. Swift address his stormwater drainage. Shelton has a very strict stormwater drainage ordinance. We comply with it. There's going to be no damage to Ivy Brook from ours. But if you're looking about how much drainage would come off a site, anybody, even the 50,000 square foot or 40,000 square foot office building with 150 parking spaces and all asphalt and no trees, would have to have the appropriate stormwater drainage. So even that, that's what this neighborhood is. That's what it is. It's a light industrial zone area. So I think that has to be remembered. The interesting comments, and I don't want to read between the lines about the issue of, well, we don't want to see you rent. I do hope everybody understands that you cannot prevent people, if people in the subdivision, People in Four Winds, you can't prevent them from leasing their property. People in Rivendell, you can't prevent them. There can be often restrictions that are put on. As far as the realtor saying these things aren't, the term flats, that was just a term that someone used. There are condos that are flats that are referred to because they're on a single floor. They're not multiple floor. Even if they are rented, the ownership, there is an ownership and they are rented. Now, there can be restrictions. I'm not sure whether it's legal in any situation for a commission to say, we are going to approve a housing development and we are going to tell you what the ownership and what the leasing is. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting concept. I can tell you that condominiums often do that and the associations often do that. But I don't know what control you have over ownership type situations, but I can guarantee you probably in all of the condominium complexes throughout the city of Shelton, there are numerous rentals. In single family home areas, there are numerous rentals. It occurs. And the idea that people that rent are somehow less than people that own is a very slippery slope to go down that. The idea that people that live in small places are somehow different. The fact of the matter is, I would suggest that people do the research on what the housing demand is now and what the housing preference is now. Someone who is at the top of the boomer generation, have different choices. Some of them want to rent, some of them want to rent condos. So I think that with that, I think that we can, I've addressed what the character of the zone is, not the character of the neighborhood. And I will reserve the rest of my comments to the next public hearing, hopefully when we get reports from the fire marshal and the city engineer. Thank you.
Chairwoman, if I can just rebut one of attorney comments.
Sure, go right ahead, Commissioner Perkins.
So I probably more than most commissioners are well versed in condo living. I've lived in one for 20 years. I'm the president of one. We have changed our declaration to not allow more than 4 out of 36 units to be rented at any one time. And it's something that all unit owners agreed to.
Right.
To the point of not being able to, that it doesn't matter. Banks actually ask that question when you are applying for a mortgage to purchase a condo. How many units in the complex are rented? So it definitely impacts the ability to get a mortgage on a condo when there are a certain amount of units rented. So that was my point in raising that.
Right. And that is why many associations adopt regulations like that. The condo that I owned for a brief period of time, my late wife owned actually, for a brief period of time, had that restriction on it. And when I had to sell it, that condo was no longer able to be rented under the regulations. So I understand that. I'm just saying that it is not a land use situation as much as it is an ownership situation. And certainly if you go condos, if my client has chosen to go condos, he better be aware of what Commissioner Parkins just pointed out, that means financing is dependent upon the lower number of rental units.
Okay. Very good. So before we move on, any final questions, comments, or concerns to present to Attorney Thomas or Mr. Rose or Mr. Swift from the commissioners? Okay, hearing none, is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion to continue the public hearing?
Commissioner Park, the motion.
Commissioner Tiki made the motion to continue. Is there a second?
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Parkins. So on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Tiki and seconded by Commissioner Parkins, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly? Commissioner Kelly, you're on mute.
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay, so this will be scheduled by staff for the agenda of an upcoming meeting. All right, so we'll move on to item C under public hearings. And that is application 21-28, Dominic Thomas for Primrose Development LLC, 113 Canal Street. And it's Chromium Commons, Assessors Map 129, Lot 31, 0.64 acres for Planned Development District to include 30 apartments with on-site parking. And the part of the legal notice that applies would be, this is initiation of application 21-28 Chromium Commons, Dominic Thomas for Primrose Development LLC at 113 Canal Street, Assessors Map 129, Lot 31 and 0.64 acres for Planned Development District PDD to include 30 apartments with on-site parking. Said property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by Housatonic Railroad Company, southerly by 100 Canal Street East, easterly by Canal Street East, and westerly by Canal Street West. Okay, so Attorney Thomas, you're just mentioned that this application was accepted for review on January 11th, 2022, and posted on the city's website is the PDD application, statement of uses and standards, site plans, and an engineering report. So Attorney Thomas, if you want to proceed with identifying yourself for the record first.
Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant, who is Primrose Development, and under contract with the largest landowner in the city of Shelton, who owns the property. And this is for a PDD on the property that once occupied the Chromium process factory. It is a brownfield site that's been remediated sufficiently to allow residential development. It is not, for those of you, very briefly, the history, it is not the entire site because a small triangle of the site was sold to for parking to the developments that occur between the apartment developments between Center Street and Bridge Street Commons, and its subsequent approval. So as a result of that, the contracts had to be redone and the proposal redone. And then the initial proposal that was made for it was for a building that was going to be a recreation building. However, it was discovered that in order to do such a larger building, it would have to occupy a portion of the site under which traveled Bering Ground Brook. And the commission is well aware of the issues with Bering Ground Brook that occurred with the Riverfront Royal project and that we went through. The difference is the Riverfront Royal project was open. The property was, the brook was open at that point during the remediation. In this case, the brook is closed off, is encapsulated in its culvert, whether it's that portion, maybe the old stone culvert along with the concrete culvert. So as a result of that, the planning had to be revised. The plan had to be revised, and the proposal that you have before you is for retail on the bottom. I think it's 8,500 square feet of retail, and 30 apartments, a pretty much equal combination of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments. Provides on-site 30 parking spaces, and the property not only is within the required 200 feet or 300 feet, whatever your regulations, the other regulations state, of the Conti building parking, public parking that is behind the farmer's market. It is almost abuts it. So therefore, with that, I think, I don't see, is Manny Silva on? Alex, is Manny there?
Yep, he is.
Okay,
And so is Mr. Getz.
and Mr. Getz. And Manny, do you want a screen share?
Give him just a second.
Good evening. My name is Manny Silva. I just the civil engineer on the project for Rose T-Zone Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield, Connecticut. Just going to share my screen real quick here. And as Attorney Dominic Thomas stated, this is the old Chromium building. Here's the building as it once was. Basically, the site is from this curb line here all the way to this area here. This is the triangle that was used for the apartment building here in the back. And then when you zoom in, you kind of can see what the state of it is today. It's basically a raised parking area. It's been all paved over. And then there's a new apartment building here, which is using that little triangle. So basically our proposal, as Attorney Dominic Thomas has stated, is to redevelop the old Chromium area. It's here on, again, here right along where the railroad kind of turns over into Derby and between the two Canal Street, east and west. I'm just going to go quickly. I know you guys had a long application just before this one. So the site plan basically encompasses a mixed use building, 4 stories. Here's that triangle that was given to the property for parking to the bottom of the sheet here. And we have 35 parking spaces alongside. Again, here's that box culvert that the attorney was talking about. And the only building that's existing right now is this little garage here that'll be demolished. Again, we'll have some basically some handicap spaces here. And then the city has already, which they did this after we did our survey, they have already improved the sidewalk and curb line here along the retail face of the building. So there's a continuous curb line and sidewalk here now along Canal Street East. And then our entrance to the residential portion of the building will be here on the side. Again, I'll just go through the drainage. Currently, the site doesn't have any drainage. It's just completely impervious, and it just runs off. So we have added a couple of catch basins. Let me just go to the next sheet here. A couple of catch basins here, and then try to control that with a stormwater quality unit here. That's an offline unit before it goes into the box culvert, which is there's a existing storm drain here that's above the box culvert that then goes out into the river. The building itself should be clean water, and therefore the roof leaders are just tied in directly. So we don't have the need for to clean that water. We did an analysis of the impervious area that we're reducing it by quite a bit. So the 2-year storm is being reduced from the existing condition by 2.3%, the 5-year storm 1.5%, the 10-year storm is being reduced by 1.1%, and then the 25-year storm is 0.9%. So we are reducing the amount of water coming off the site currently from today, and we are going to increase the water quality, as right now the paved area is just kind of sheet flow, whatever they have on them, into the river. So here's our soil and erosion control plan. So during construction, we don't want to have any dirt or anything leave the site or into the adjacent properties. So we have a silt fence envelope around the property. We have an anti-tracking pad, which will knock any mud off of or dirt off of any kind of vehicles or trucks that are entering or exiting the construction site. And then once we have our stormwater structures in place, we have silt sacks, which is a sack that goes inside the actual basin. So when water does go in there, muddy water, it'll get filtered through the sack. And then once the construction is complete and stabilized, we pull those sacks out and the units are clean, ready to go on day one, once everything's stabilized. I'll just go on to the next one. Here's our soil and erosion control, basically narrative and details. Here's that silt sack I was talking about, which will collect debris and mud during construction inside of the structures. Here's that anti-tracking pad, basically to make sure there was no mud coming into the road. And our silt fence will have a detail basically that's reinforced by hay bales, so that when water flows into it, it has a more structural rigidity and it won't get knocked over. our landscaping plan, we have some street trees along the parking area that was given to the adjacent owners. Some ground white azaleas to kind of complement the street tree canopy. Again, we have the azaleas here as a kind of a foundation planting. And then as you can see here, we have some rhododendrons and red grasses here for low ground cover, a street tree here. Again, some low ground cover. And around here, we have 2 street trees and some low ground cover to kind of finish off the corner. And basically because the site is so narrow, we can't, we don't have too much opportunity between the building and the street to put any planting, but that's just the way the street is laid out and in the buildings in the neighborhood. Again, here's our details. We're going to install new concrete curbing around the building. What else? Our sidewalks, basically, standard details. I won't go through it too much in detail. Sewer connection, and then our dumpsters and enclosures will be slatted chain link fencing. We will have snouts in every catch basin so that not just that vortex unit will remove floatables and debris, and the individual catch basin will also collect bottles and things of that nature and oils. So that's an additional water treatment implement in the train, the water treatment train going into the culvert. We have a lighting plan. I don't know why this lighting plan is a little bit off, but we have a lighting plan showing how we're lighting the parking lot. And you can see there's nearly no trespass of light outside of the property itself, except for maybe here, right where the entrance is, which is accessible. It's a public street. And I think that's basically it. And I'll take any questions on the actual site plans.
I was just, maybe this is a question more for Mr. Getz, but there is, Mr. Silva remarked that there wouldn't be that much space for some landscape plantings on the street, Canal Street West. So at the appropriate time, Mr. Getz, if you could just mention whether or not there was any thought to reducing the footprint of the building. And the other thing is across the street where the lofts are, is that the old SPZC building, you do have some outdoor patio space. Is there anything planned? Is there space for anything like that on this particular site? Mr. Malisi has on his canal, Bridge Street Commons too, does have like an outdoor second floor kind of patio that residents all have access to. So that made me think about how some outdoor space, would that be available for any of the tenants in this particular building?
I don't know.
John, do you want me to bring up the architecturals and the elevation? I think
Yeah, if you would. I think, yes, if you would. Well, again, for the record, I'm John Getz. I'm manager of Primrose Development. Just to provide a little bit of history. Can everybody hear me? Because I'm having problems with this.
We can hear you.
Okay, I've been having problems all evening with the Wi-Fi. But again, just to give the commission a little bit of history, I'm sure the commission has followed it, but the initial program that we had for this site, first of all, so that you understand, more clearly the site itself, the history of it is that it was the site of the Chromium processing company. And as such, the building was basically on the street line and the entire perimeter. When the building was demolished and mitigated, the city did not remove the foundation walls. The foundation walls are very thick brick, but they were kept so that the streets would be short, meaning that they couldn't remove them without having the streets collapse. So the foundations for the building's foundations are still in place. They were never removed. The site was mitigated, fill was brought in, and a cap was installed, a liner was installed 6 foot below grade. So the intent is to build this building on top of the existing foundations. We will do a structural evaluation of them, but knowing the history of these buildings, the foundations were built very structurally sound and again, I believe they were about 2 feet in thickness.
Oops, I think we just lost.
Oops, you're gone.
Yeah, we lost him. I have a question then. What Mr. Gis was talking about, using the same.
Commissioner Kelly, let's see if we can get him back online and then he can hear it at the same time.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. All right, so before we go to Commissioner Kelly, Mr. Getz, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, again, I just wanted to give you a little bit of history and then we can go through, the comments. But basically, that was the history of the building. It was demolished. It was environmentally mitigated, but the wall structures are there. They're only maybe a foot or so below the grade. They're not that deep. And the reason I point that out is that they provide certain limitations to how we can build the structure there. When we initially planned this whole thing out, we had a specific purpose in mind, and we had a specific tenant in mind for it. And the building, as it was designed initially, had 2 parts to it. One was, it was on the south side of the lot, closer to the farmer's market, which the lot is wider at that location. And as Manny Silva stated, there was a V-shaped section of the property that we did not know when we entered into the agreement with the city that had been sold. So the initial building design had proceeded, and basically that V was providing a ramp so that we would be able to put in a double deck, a grade parking and a raised deck parking for the building. Well, the 2 things that happened.
You're gone again, Mr. Getz.
I've been having connectivity issues on Zoom as well tonight. Perhaps if he turns off his video, it's helpful.
Oh, that's a good thought.
Yeah, I've seen that in other towns too. Same thing. You shut off your video, you're good.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
sorry,
why.
as I said, I've been having Wi-Fi issues. So this is very nerve-wracking. But can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can. The suggestion, if you hadn't heard it,
Okay.
was
So
to turn your video off. That's a suggestion that Commissioner Parkins made. It could help with your Wi-Fi connection.
how's that?
Okay.
But again, as I said, that's the history. The 2 things that happened was that the city sold off a portion of the property. And then the second part is that when city engineer Remus reviewed the plans, he had concerns that even though the Chromium building that had been demolished did go over the river or the stream, the canal, not the canal, but the culvert, similar to what it happens on the Conti building and all the other buildings. He just felt that because of the fact that now we have the ability to build a new structure, that it should not be built over the culvert. So the building had to be pushed forward, and in doing so, the building had to
Okay, we lost you at, the building had to be pushed forward and
What's the problem?
just one of those nights.
Better than getting Zoom bombed.
I saw that there was a recess called right away.
Yeah, I can.
I guess
again,
I guess shutting off the video.
Yeah, did you change
Shutting off the video
providers
didn't
or something? By any chance?
No, we have Frontiers representative coming here tomorrow because this has been going on for the past 2 days.
Bless you.
We'll send them to my house after.
Yeah. But again, I'll try to be as fast as I can with the presentation so that, basically, as I said, that the problem was the building had to be narrower and therefore it couldn't accommodate the tenant. So we, after looking at it, the decision was to go into this program. There were 3 factors that I focused on. One was making sure that we
Mr. Getz?
Very frustrating.
Yeah.
It is.
This doesn't happen often though for us, so we got to be thankful for that.
Wow,
but
we've been
when it
lucky.
does,
Really
when
have.
it does, it's awful.
Reminds you of the old days.
Yeah.
Just the microphones.
Yeah, I think Frontier's
Oh,
just having issues tonight.
Yeah. Yours are
I'm
better.
back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, there you go.
you were just going,
So-
gonna start saying the issues that you had or the 3 things or something?
Yeah, so the three focuses that I made was, one, making sure that we had a connection, a walkway connection from Center Street across to Canal, as part of the pedestrian connection that we always talked about. So that was introduced. And then the fact that, as we've talked, that retail or commercial, that these buildings need to have a component, just to follow through on. And therefore, I came back with a mixed-use building, retail on the first floor level, and then residential on the second and third, the second, third, and fourth level. So this building, basically, it's only 4 stories. Because of this site, tightness, we don't have an outside, trash compactor. It's indoors where the trash chute from, access and the trash chute from all the other floors. As Attorney Thomas stated, there's basically 15 one-bedroom units and 15 two-bedroom units. The one-bedroom units average 750 square feet, and the two-bedroom units are a little over 900 square feet. They're all basically typical, and it's basically the question as to making the building smaller. What I have pointed out is that on this site, basically it is just follows the building that was there. And there isn't, I don't know whether or not, I know that we can put in streetscapes or street trees. On site itself, it's going to be limited because of the fact that it was a mitigated site and there's still remnants of the structures underneath the ground. And therefore, there's going to be the landscaping that can be put is going to be minimum around the foundation of the building. But again, I also don't think it would be appropriate because I want the storefronts to face the street. So basically the landscaping would be on the sidewalk and on the south or the south side of the site where we are able to, where the land will allow it, for planting. The building was, again, that I designed, did two things. One is limited the height by just having a four-story structure, retail on the first floor with brick veneer up to the sills of the first windows, and then again going in with a flat roof with a 3.5-foot parapet. On this one here, when we were talking about amenities for the tenants, the possibility here is we could put in a roof observation deck. Since the elevator tower and stair tower can go up there, can go to the roof, and we're still the height is still below what we have been discussing for the past months. There was one comment that during the work session that Tony Panico had made, and that was to add some breaks for the siding. The siding was meant to be shakes, vinyl shakes, and I indicated that we would take a look at that. Now there is a rendering, but the renderer took it from the wrong side. But I believe Dominic Thomas has that as well. He can pull that up.
I can't. Yeah, just a minute. I gotta get rid of this. How do I?
So what I'll do for the next meeting is, have him do a rendering from the other side. He focused on the main entrance of the residential and not the commercial. But as you can see, it's very basic. The only thing is, I said that if I can add some breaks in the siding, some vertical breaks to so that the siding is not continuous. But again, this one, unlike the Riverview Park Royal, where I had the land to work with, this one was pretty straightforward of setting the building on top of the existing foundations. If you have any questions, yes.
Mr. Getz, the left side of this building elevation, that's what faces the Riverwalk and the river.
No, the elevation you're looking at faces the Conti building.
I thought that's the side that your retail opened up.
No, no. As you can see, that there are no retail, because on the opposite side you don't have any landscaping. You just have the street and sidewalk and the storefronts.
All right, so the storefronts face the SPZC building in Derby.
Right. This here faces Farmers Market.
Okay.
Again, as I said, the renderer just focused on the main entrance to the apartment building. But basically, similar to what we did when I had him do on the Riverview Park Royal, if you remember, we had the street elevation, and then we provided the river elevation, or the Riverwalk side elevation. So this one here is similar to that.
The short side of the building is to be facing the farmer's market. But
the entrance to the apartments, as you see it, faces the farmer's market.
Okay, where the red car is.
Right, that's facing
the parking lot.
Yeah, okay.
All right. The parking lot should be going out there. It's just from the wrong orientation.
Yeah, okay.
But as I said, for the next hearing, obviously, if you're continuing this, I'll have the other elevation rendered.
Okay, so on the side facing the Conti building will or will not have a sidewalk?
Well, again, there are areas where we can put some landscaping, but the intent is to have a sidewalk there as well. So the sidewalk, right now, the city put in the sidewalk along Canal Street.
Yeah, on the other side.
Right, on the other side. So that will be wrapped around the building, right over to the pedestrian walk that's being created.
Mm-hmm.
The pedestrian walk is right it connects to the side of the new Malisi building, on Center Street.
Okay, so if you can, anybody can find sheet SP-8 and project that.
I have it up.
Yeah, it's a net set.
The lighting plan, SP8 is the lighting plan.
Yeah, that's fine, because what it does, it shows Center Street. There you go. So there's Center Street to the left of where it says, in the middle where it says to the left of Lithonia Lighting. So there's a sidewalk on the left that goes along Mr. Malisi's Bridge Street Commons too. So there would be a crosswalk going over.
Now, if you see where I positioned the building,
Mm-hmm.
right where, okay, it's, anyway, right to the left side of the building, I'm creating that right there, I'm creating a brick walk that connects Center Street to Canal Street. If you remember, there was always a discussion early on when we were talking about, and at that time, Chromium was still up. There was, anybody walking would have to go around the building. We even talked about when the Birmingham came, to be, we even talked about putting a pedestrian, walkway over the railroad.
Yep.
And that never happened. But, here, when I put this together, I decided that this would be an appropriate location to have the crosswalk.
Okay, but where is it going across the street where it says west?
Right over here.
Yeah, that is, okay.
And it's going straight across
Mm-hmm.
to Canal Street East.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this doesn't show it, but if you remember the Riverview Park Royal, the site plan where we're continuing the Riverwalk,
Mm-hmm.
the Riverwalk will end right in front of this walkway.
On this side over here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the intent is that, it's part of that whole pedestrian program to connect the Riverwalk to the downtown.
Okay. All right, is there any commissioner has any question for Mr. Getz?
Yes,
Chairwoman.
I do, Commissioner Harger.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
Mr. Getz, I think you answered it already, though. You're just following the footprint of what the existing building was as far as foundations and whatnot. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Commissioner Keller.
Okay, and where Canal Street is, that's the front of the basically of the commercial built units.
Well, in this case, what I've done is I try to, if you look at the elevation on the opposite side, even though technically it's, the front is facing Canal Street East because that's where the Riverview Park Royal is. So that's, but I also try to create a facade that was not deemed as a error, but just basically continue the brick. And I think Dominic Thomas can bring up the other elevation, and you'll see that.
You're talking about the elevation facing Canal Street East?
Canal
Well,
Street.
no, that's where the
That's facing Derby.
yeah, right,
Well,
exactly.
If you look at it, this faces Derby, but if
Correct.
you take the next elevation sheet.
This one?
No, just go to the next sheet, Dominic. You're still on the same one.
This is facing east side. This is facing Derby.
Yep.
Okay,
The next one.
so this one here is the one that faces, you just had it, Dominic.
Okay, yeah.
Just scroll up, move it up.
That's it. Well, go up to another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
No, this is still, just go to the next page. I want to go back to the regular hearings. Zoom thing is getting it.
They're working on it.
There's only 4 sides. I only
All
have.
right, so Dominic, just leave it at that side. So,
Okay.
basically, as you can see, this is the side that faces
the downtown.
Correct.
This is faces the Conti building. And as you can see, even though you have rear doors, I didn't just put the doors, I put, a transom over them. On the left side, I put another entrance so that I thought that the north side of the building that possibly would be able to attract an ice cream shop or something of that type, and that they would be able to have access to it from both canal streets or from the Riverwalk.
Okay.
That's being created on the left side of this elevation.
You're going to have a sidewalk on Canal Street East then also.
That's correct, but because the lot, and again, Dominic, if you want to just go to the site plan. The lot is not rectangle, there's, if you look, I mean, if you can zoom in on it, there's sections of it and that's why the building wound up being narrower. As you can see, it's not straightforward. And basically it's not depicted very well because the sidewalk there will be an area for some landscaping, but the sidewalk will be carried over and continue around the entire property.
Where's the landscape?
Well, this is not the landscape plan. But again, it's the landscape, as I said, the only area that the landscape, in my opinion, will work. Because of the underground structure is outside of where the Chromium building was. So on the right side where you see the landscaping trees and so forth, that'll work. And on any trees that are placed on the, as a street tree, that'll work. But anything within the property, unless it's just minor shrubs, low shrubs, they won't work. There's not enough soil underneath there to, for the root systems to work.
Yeah.
Well, do you have enough space that you could have large, like cast concrete pots? That could be used for.
Well, again, I think that the idea will be to have. The idea is that I want to concentrate on is to basically add some. Or am I losing you again?
No, you're fine.
Okay, the idea is that, and we'll have that for the next meeting, but if you look at the landscape plan, if you see what was introduced on the left side of the crosswalk, there's some trees and shrubs. Well, we'll be looking at the sidewalk and trying to create some streetscape of introducing some shade trees, on the sidewalk itself, because the sidewalks are outside of where the Chromium building was. So we'll come back with some additional information on that.
Mm-hmm.
John, can you show us an exact curb line on the front of the building?
It's not on our site plans right now because.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
Can you show it to us?
Hold on. If Dominic gives it to me, I can kind of show you what.
Prepare a drawing showing the exact location.
We can
What do you
provide
want me to
one.
do, Manny? Do you want me to stop
Yeah, just
sharing?
release. Yeah, just give me the share.
And I also think it ought to relate to the proposed building across the street.
Right. So if Mr. Panico, you can see what the city did, and what we'll have to do is we'll have to locate it and hold on. We'll have to locate it at some point. But what I believe they did is they continued this kind of curb line out to here, right?
I don't know. Did they? At one time, it had an indentation toward the old building.
Right. I mean, John, that's correct, right? They just kind of like connected they continued the concrete curb all the way down so that it was continuous.
No,
it's kind of critical
Yeah,
to how much walk we have in front of us.
that's correct. That's what they followed. That tree line.
Oops.
I would think if you're going to be using the wall of the existing building, you could probably just go out and measure it in a few spots.
Yeah, well,
Curve
I
is in
think the
relation to
best bet,
existing
Matty,
building.
is you're gonna have to go out there and just,
Yeah, we'll locate it. We'll locate it and update the base map. But what in general it is they continued this curb line.
So there's a uniform sidewalk width then?
Correct.
Okay.
So that you're gonna have about looks like 6 feet here, 6-7 feet here between the front of this and the curb.
Well, you drew your red line, it's every bit of that.
Yeah.
More like 10 or 12 feet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is not I can't scale a
Yeah, I know.
PDF, but we'll update this base map to show where the city just redid this sidewalk. And I think they did some work over here
The
too.
commission would find it very helpful to know the relationship of this proposed building to the proposed Royal Apartments across the street and the driveway that goes up through the site to the left of there, the other side of the tracks. Just to get a feeling for how this relates in the overall area, just as you've done on the southerly side, I guess the southwesterly side.
Right. So this is basically the parking area, and here's that bottom piece. We're gonna have that. Is this the through? No. Is this the through side? I even get confused. Hold on. So this is that piece here, right? The south, and then the tracks are here. Let me just go to that again. So we're gonna have basically a walkway that comes across here, so that you can connect these two streets again. The new, I don't know if this is the new building yet. I think it is. Maybe not.
Do you have a technical issue crossing that little corner of railroad property?
I don't think so, because there's a crosswalk here already, right? There's a crosswalk.
Silva, are you moving your cursor? There you go. Okay.
I know.
That was hard to pick
You're gonna
up.
need their permission. That's gonna be very tricky.
Yeah, to come all the way across to here, right? I think there is enough town right away maybe to make the crosswalk to come here, right near this catch basin. But yeah, we can take a look if that's your
I guess
concern.
that's what the concerns were.
Right.
Pedestrian connectivity. And
Right, from this area here, come across and then walk through, and then you'll be able to access, the east area. And then we have
Mr. Silva, before you go on, any updating, if you wouldn't mind including, or Mr. Getz including the outlines of the SpongeX building, just like you've shown Mr. Malisi's building and the Conti building on
Okay.
Canal Street West. Where are the buildings on Canal Street East?
right. Yeah, we'll have to update them. Oh, it's good. We'll make like an overall location map kind of, so
Yeah.
you could see
Mm-hmm.
where everything is. Obviously their new building is here. It's not in this picture, it's not constructed yet, but what you're going to do is come off of this sidewalk that you're here. I'm kind of walking you through virtually here, and you're going to cross here, right?
I don't see your cursor. Where are you?
Hold on. Let me see if I can, oh, I see. It's only going here. I'll do this. This will be much better. So here's where the new building is now. I mean, this picture hasn't built it yet.
Yeah.
But then you'll be crossing here at
Yep.
and then our building will be on the other side. Will be here, basically where these cars are.
Yep.
And you're going to cross over here. There's going to be some trees.
Mhm.
This is the parking area that belongs to
Mr.
the guys across the
Malisi.
street.
Yep.
And then you'll be able to cross over here, and then you'll end up at this. See this ramp here, basically,
Yep.
right near that catch basin, like I said.
and that's
So-
where the Riverwalk winds up.
Well,
Right.
further up around the hydrant.
No, the Riverwalk comes right in just before the lights.
Well, that's why I think you need to show us on the drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes in like right here,
Show,
right?
show where that,
Yeah,
show where that support stanchion
Yeah,
is.
that's where it exits, because that, on the other side, it belongs to the railroad.
Right, so you're gonna be able to come in right behind the support stanchion here, right, and go along the sidewalk to the ramp and then cross over to our property and then to that sidewalk out there. So it's gonna be a pretty good connectivity. And then hopefully one day, my hopes is that you'll create like a trolley to the train station and maybe have some stops in here. I think that's what Shelton needs downtown, but that's my opinion. And then the other side of the project is basically this building's going to end like right here. And then you'll have this building here, and
The building's gonna end there? Are you sure you meant?
no, not the building, the parking lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
John,
Yep,
have you given any
parking lot.
thought to making the front of the building more reflect your building that you're proposing across the street?
No, I prefer not.
Let's look at this one as.
I'd prefer not to. I mean, I could take a look at putting on a pitch roof on it, but on this one here, because we had limited areas, it's always, where do you put the mechanical equipment and everything else? It's, across the street, as you know, from reviewing all the plans, even though I put in the pitched roofs just for the aesthetics, in the backs of the building, I did create flat sections of the roof to house all of the condensers and all of the mechanical equipment. I think that on this one here, I prefer to not duplicate the other building. I'll put some enhancements on it, but I don't want to start mimicking.
Change in the roof line, John, that's really.
Well, no, as I said, if the reason why we go with flat roofs is because of always these height issues. I think that obviously as you go down the old industrial buildings, they were all flat roofs for the most part, except for Spongex. But all the other ones, have, the Avalon, they introduced pitch roofs, but
Avalon's got pitch.
anyway, I'll take a look at it.
Those are not flat.
No, Avalon is they're not flat, but they're almost flat. They just put some ridges.
Flat.
Which one were you referring to?
What does that have to do?
Mr. Pianica, which buildings were you referring to besides the first one?
Well, the first one that I mentioned,
Yeah, Marion, Avalon.
Avalon, which is further up, those are not flat roofs,
Right.
No.
obviously.
No, this
and on the other side of your
this
project,
area,
the farmers market building.
not to interrupt you,
is not
Tony,
flat.
but
The building that you just rehabbed is not flat. The building that you just built is not flat. The building you're going to build across the street is not flat.
Mr. Getz, did you have a comment?
yeah, this photo or aerial is a good area because it shows you the building that was there before. As you can see, it was basically street line to street line, and it encompassed almost the entire parcel. So those of us that that have been focused in downtown saw saw the property from what it was to its demolition and its mitigation, and that's why I have said that and this is similar to what we're going to have to do at Starpen, and that is build on top of the existing foundations. But that's the reason why the configuration of the building is what it is. Again, I think that for the next hearing, we'll do two things. We'll refine the site plan to be able to provide additional information as discussed, including the not just the sidewalks that have been already, those that will be built. I'll take a look to see if we have some, if I can come up with a couple of alternate facade improvements so you can look at. But overall, I think the plan itself for the site is a good plan, and it's sort of, as I said, I gave thought to, how it would interlock with the Riverwalk and, and providing access from the, from one side of the,
Lost him.
Mr. Getz?
I hate to say this, but I'm going to lose you again. So if you have any questions, throw them
Chairwoman,
at me.
Commissioner Parkins, I have some questions.
Go ahead.
So I would like to see some enhancements to the building. No disrespect intended, but I kind of view this as a cookie cutter. I've seen this exact building kind of reversed in other proposals that I've seen recently in the newspaper that I do not believe you're associated with. So I don't know if there's just a really strange coincidence there, or if this is just a cookie cutter building. I mean, you did a great job on the design of the Royal. So I'm hoping maybe just some enhancements. I assume that there's going to be gated parking for the residents to ensure that they do indeed have a spot to come home to at night. Wondering if the street side parking where the business fronts are, if there's going to be street side parking and how that may be managed. That may be a city question to ensure that, if there's some sort of business that people just run in and pick up, that they have a spot that they're entitled to. Wondering if the back of the buildings will be for the delivery, so that any deliveries for soda or anything else to the storefronts won't block traffic on that other side. And wondering if the location of the elevator, where that may be for moving in and out, like where would people park their moving van to be able to load the elevator? Would that be on the back side of the building as well? And finally, my last question is the entrance with the wide windows. Is that the stairwell? That's
Yeah, that's part of the main entrance.
That's a great design, because I believe stairwells really should have daylight, outside light for safety reasons. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we're in the downtown environment. So, basically the loading and unloading is going to be at the rear, the so-called rear of the building, but it's basically the Canal Street West. Canal Street East is I think that's the main thoroughfare that now connects to Riverside Drive. That's where, the major
right
traffic is going to be. So I don't think that's going to happen. Look, the good thing about this site is the fact that, people here can just walk across the street to the county lot. It's, it's not, you're basically across the street from it, so I don't think that the tenants will have a difficult time, accessing, parking. The businesses, yes, we right now, again, it's what I'm hoping for is foot traffic, typical
Right.
for the downtown area. It's not,
yeah,
it's the type of, shops that we want in the downtown area to encourage, foot traffic. We're starting to see it now, whereas when years ago, as it was unheard of, but now you're starting to see it. People are walking their dogs, they're walking to the restaurants and so forth. So that's what I envision here.
so will there be street side parking in front of the building where the
No.
where the rest of the no, okay,
No, there will not be.
okay.
How about that gated parking that Commissioner Parkins brought up?
Well, the intent is to have a low decorative fence, around the entire perimeter. I don't know about gated, I think people, once they, realize that they can't park there, they're going to go to the county lot.
No, they're
I
gonna
mean,
park
right
there.
now-
You've been
Do you
telling
really
them.
think that, John? You really think that?
Well, we're having well, the same
I'm
issue,
sorry, I just,
but- I know. But
you're,
again,
you're
it's,
much kinder to people.
well, I think eventually people start learning, and as the downtown continues to be developed, people won't be afraid to walk and so forth. Because a lot of this has to do with lighting. It has to do with, just the fact that, we're still having issues in the downtown with break-ins to the cars and, so forth. And
Not
until
just
all of that
downtown.
sort of, no, but but right now the downtown is more effective because it's new. These are, we've created a new environment for people. And they're coming from, areas outside of the city. So, I think that eventually it will all catch up. And especially as, as it continues to grow. I mean, these two, the Park Royal and this one, and then you have still the sites north of Avalon, and that whole program will be coming back to the commission in the coming months for a review of the other phases that are to be built. So the growth will continue, and the interest is continuing as well. So I believe that we're that in my lifetime we're going to see a real rebirth of the downtown.
Okay,
I agree as well, but I think you really should consider making it a gated lot. I don't think people are going to pay attention to a sign that says violators will be towed, because there is towing happening downtown, and it's creating an uproar. But I think you're going to have to deal with the consternation of your tenants if they can't park in that lot. So just a suggestion.
I understand and I agree. That's why the entrance, I made sure that the entrance to the apartments was separate from the entrance to the commercial.
Right.
And an easy way to address the situation without gating it is permit parking and towing. I mean, where people have a displayable permit in some fashion, you won't stop it at the beginning, but you will stop it as you go along. So if it doesn't gate it, it can also be permit parking.
Yeah, I think towing would be a much more expensive option than putting up a gate.
Well, there's also the issue that people need to understand that, just because the parking spaces are there, it's meant to be there for their relatives and for, we had an issue, across the street where there was a car parked there for over 4 or 5 days without moving. And, we finally tracked it down. It was one of the tenant's sister that needed a place to leave her car. Well, that's,
Nice.
Nice. But
So
Yeah,
that's
those are the
very
type of-
accommodating of you, Mr. Getz.
well, I mean, she took offense when the car was towed, but anyway,
Gee, really?
but that's what we're faced with. But
Yeah.
anyway, look, it's been a rough night for me with this, this Wi-Fi, issues, but I think, for the next hearing, we'll have some additional information for you to view. I've heard, the concerns, and we'll act on it.
Yeah, elevations from all sides would be helpful and a
Yeah.
greater overall kind of.
And we'll get rid of the
Plan.
cookie cutter.
Okay, any other questions for
Yes.
the applicant?
Yep, just for either tonight or in the next public hearing, just a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we adjourn is I share in the parking concerns about the gated lot might be more useful for folks than being towed. We all know we have a parking issue in downtown, and we'll have folks being very confused about where to park since this is taking so many spots offline. I do agree with the building needs some more architectural interest, so maybe we can, I'd be interested to see some other ideas about how just maybe vertically there can be some treatments, but with the architecture of the building. And then also how, what the depth of the sidewalk is. And Mr. Getz mentioned maybe an ice cream shop, are the sidewalks going to be deep enough to provide some lampposts or maybe even some benches, depending on the nature of the businesses that they may think are going to be brought in there. I'd be interested to hear about the trash and how that's going to be treated on site. And also if there's any affordable units in this development.
Well, again, I think that I can answer two of your questions or two of your issues. On this building here, because of the fact that where it's located and the fact that it's in the downtown area, similar to across the street, the Park Royal, here I introduced a trash room, and there's a trash chute for the apartments. There's a trash room at every floor with the doors to the chutes. They come down to the compactor. The commercial tenants have access to it as well. So basically the trash will be taken out on every few days. But it's compacted materials. So it's within the building. There is no outdoor containers. So here again, we were limited, number one. Number two, in this here, since you really, you have a view of the parking from all sides, it wouldn't be appropriate. So that's the way that's being handled. As far as the affordable, again, it's more of, on this particular case, 10% would be 3 units. Unlike the Riverview Park Royal, there's only 2 types of units. There's a 1-bedroom, there's a 2-bedroom. And, here I would consider, providing the 10%, which again is 3 units. It's not, a major, issue. And again, it's not, the commission sooner or later has to adopt their own affordable housing, reg, which, a lot of the towns are adopting. Fairfield, as you may know, right now, all multifamily developments in the city, if it's done without the A30G process, it's, they have to, it's a 10% requirement under the 80% median income, and this is basically the same thing that I would propose here is, 3 units under the 80% affordable component.
Mr. Gis, I don't want to take up the time because we do have to move into the public portion at some point, but if you could just clarify the next time. On sheet A1 in the bottom right corner, you clearly see elevator lobby and a trash compactor room. But if you're having chutes, I don't see on the other floors on A2 and A3 where.
It's by the stairwell.
Yeah, I don't see something specifically designated as that. So
Well, Dominic can put it up. I'll locate it for you. Dominic, okay.
What floor do you want?
First floor.
4th floor.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have.
right, here it is. There's the elevator lobby and there's the trash
Yeah,
compactor
there's
room. It's the upper.
okay, it's for some reason,
Yes.
I'll have to, the plans have been revised.
Okay,
So I'll have to,
looks like you got a bedroom there.
yeah, no, there's a revision to it. We'll get it. That apartment was revised to accommodate it.
Okay,
So,
all right.
but it'll be, the chutes are basically where that bathroom is. And that bathroom was relocated.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay.
So without any objection, can we move into the public portion? Any last comments from any of the commissioners? Okay, so Mr. Rossetti, do you have any correspondence or any communication from any members of the public that need to be read into the record?
We did receive one letter. It will be published soon. but I will just summarize it since we've already discussed it at length.
This came in after everything was posted, but before and within the
Correct. It was received
period.
yesterday morning, so we did not have to post it, but it was received within 24 hours of the meeting. The primary concern of the letter is parking at, one space per unit with, yes, there is public parking available nearby, but just that.
Is the letter necessarily long? Can we just read it?
Oh, Jesus, no.
It just summarizes the parking issue.
Okay, and who's it from?
The letter is from, pull it up. The letter is from Mr. Malisi across the road, Angela Malisi. His comments say, talk about the concerns of parking on the site as it is, as it's owned. I think it's still owned by the city. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that it's currently occupied, and he has concerns that where will his tenants go when there is nowhere to park there for those commercial uses.
All right. Is that the only one?
That is the only letter we received.
Okay, now, are there anybody that had their hands raised? If those in the public that are still with us, if you wanted to make a comment and you have not already raised your hand so that Mr. Rossetti can identify you as wishing to speak, please do so now. And are there anybody there that are ready to speak, Mr. Rossetti?
Doesn't look like it just yet. See if anyone wants to raise their hand. Going once, going twice. Okay.
Okay, so no one from the public has indicated that they wish to speak. And unless anybody has any further questions, is there a motion to, before we go into that, just so put on the record that with new information coming in, members of the public would be permitted to, on the continuation, to comment on that, on any new information. So being that as it is, go ahead.
Do we have any reports on this? Just another question. In other words, city engineer, fire marshal,
Mr.
anything?
Rossetti?
No.
No reports as yet. Okay. All right, so is there anyone that would like to make a motion to continue the public hearing?
Commissioner Ticky will motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Kelly. So on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Ticky, seconded by Commissioner Kelly, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. So staff will schedule this continuation on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night. And the
you.
final agenda item is approval of the January 26, 2022 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments or corrections for these minutes?
Look good to me.
Okay.
Me too.
All right, so hearing no changes, any comments? Is there anyone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as
Okay,
submitted.
thank you.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Parkins,
Conrad.
will second.
Commissioner Parkins, okay, so on the motion to approve the January 26, 2022 meeting minutes as submitted, that was made by Commissioner Motto and seconded by Commissioner Parkins. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. All right, seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, chair declares this evening's meeting is adjourned as of 9:09 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Bye,
I
everybody.
do apologize for being
Aye.
Chairwoman, I do apologize for being sideways for a while. I had to switch to my cell phone to get onto Zoom, so I didn't realize I was sideways until it was brought to my attention.
Yeah, I was just about ready to send you a text when I saw that you changed. So
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Oh, it's fine.
By the end of the night, we're all a little cross-eyed anyway.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Good night, everyone.
All right,